Good morning and welcome everyone. We're going to see the lens. We have seen something in the previous video, but that was about the cameras. We can divide them in two big families, the prime and the zoom. The prime lens have only one focal length each, while with the zoom you have different focal lengths in one lens. It means that with prime you can have 20 millimeters, 50 millimeters and so on, while with the zoom you can have 35 to 70 millimeters, 12 to 24 and so on. In the early photography, the old lenses were all screw mount. It means they have a thread like this one, and you used to screw the lens on the camera. But with the time, as we have seen in the other video, the manufacturer went for the bayonet mount because it's quite faster. I'll show you an example here, starting with this one. Let's put a case. You have a shooting and you need more than one lens, often more than 2 or 3. So you need a certain time to swap the lens. You have to unscrew one lens up and then mount the other, and so on for all the other lenses. While let me put this one back. Okay. While with the bayonet mount, in this case this is a Nikon bayonet, if you need more lenses, you just remove the lens from the camera and mount the other one. It's easy as this. So you see, it's much faster to change the lens. There's no comparison between the two systems. There are also other reasons. For example, when you screw a lens in the camera, it will never stop at the same point. So it would be difficult to study a system for focusing or calculating the light, because every time you screw the lens, you mount the lens, you have it stop in a different place, even if it's very tiny. While with the bayonet, it stops always at the same point on the mount. So it's much easier to study a focusing system. This mount here is called M42. It's the diameter of the flange on the camera. There also is an M39 lens that they're usually the lens that Leica used to mount, and another couple companies. Many of those lenses are manual focus, like this one and the Takumar on the Pentax. Those are all manual focusing lenses. But for the people that went on the bayonet system, because as I said, even the Pentax during the time went from the screw mount to the bayonet mount. And what about all the older lenses? You didn't need to throw them or to buy a new set of lenses. You could mount the old lens via adapters, like this one. In this case, we have an adapter for Nikon. This goes from M42 mount, the screw mount we have here, to the Nikon bayonet. So basically, you screw the adapter on the back of the lens, and here with this lens you can mount this lens with a bayonet. Of course, you won't have the autofocus and all the other options that the new lens have. You will be stuck on the manual focus, but it's not the end of the world, especially with the camera having the dot indicating the right focus inside. The problem with the adapters is that every camera has a certain flange focal distance. The flange focal distance is the distance that is between the back of the lens and the sensor or the film. In this case, the sensor is indicated here with this symbol here. All the camera have it. This is where the sensor is. So basically you have this distance between the back of the lens and the sensor. In the case of the Nikon, for example, the flange focal distance is really short. So if we mount an adapter on the lens and mount the lens on the camera, we will lose the focus from a certain distance to the infinity. Basically, we will use a lens like a macro. To solve that problem, the adapter for the Nikon, for the reflex Nikon, have a lens in the middle. You see, this adapter has a lens. While other adapters for Fujifilm, for example, there's just the ring. You don't have any lens because you don't need it, because the flange distance is enough and you won't lose the focus. With the time, the lens acquired several functions that the older one didn't have. For example, lens like this is a lens from the 80s anyway, but it's considered new compared to this one and this one. They have the contacts here to communicate with the camera for the focus, aperture, and so on. And the new lens, or many of the new lenses, have an internal stabilization. It means that you can shoot with really low shutter speed compared to the old ones. At the start of the video I said we can divide the lens in two big families, the prime and the zooms. But each of this family has the same type of lens. Basically, there are three types: wide angle, normal, and tele. There also are special lenses like the fisheye, the macro, the tilt shift, but those are for particular usage. Wide angle lens, in this case we have here 24 millimeters. In the past, 24 millimeters was almost the limit, but right now there are wide angle like 12 millimeters, 10 millimeters, I think also 8 millimeters. The wide angle is used to portrait, panorama, the street photography. You can also take portraits, but it's not its main use. The normal lens, the 50 millimeters we have here on the Nikon and on the Pentax, it's called the normal lens because its field angle, it's similar to the human eye. It's about 120 degrees. Also the 35 millimeters falls in that category, but the 50 millimeters is more the normal lens. And it's a lens you can use for almost everything. You can use it for portrait, panorama, or for other stuff. Then there are the tele. A medium tele start from 80 millimeters, 105 millimeters, and then there are longer tele like 200 3, 4, 5, 600, 800. Those are suited for wildlife or for portrait because they tend to isolate the subject from the background. We have 3 samples here, 3 pictures taken with 3 different lenses. The first is a wide angle, 24 millimeters. The second is a normal lens, it's the 50 millimeters. And the last one is taken with the Tele 180 millimeters. The focus point, as you can see here, indicated by the red arrow, is on the top of the church, on the background, behind the wall. In the first picture, look how wide is the part of the panorama portrayed by the lens. Its angle is quite wide, and the subject on the distance is really small. With the normal lens, you see how closer is the subject, it's bigger, and the field angle is narrower. The last lens, check the subject, it's quite bigger in the center of the image, and the field angle is quite narrow. So the tele tends to get the subject to the lens. That's the basic difference between the different lenses. We have seen the normal lenses. This is a zoom, a Nikon zoom, and as we see here, we have 4 focal lengths, 80 millimeters, 105 millimeters, 135 and 200. It's like having 4 primes in one single lens. This is a professional lens, and like all the professional lens, changing the focal lengths and focusing the lens doesn't extend. There are professional zooms that do it, but usually in the average zooms, the internal part extends when you turn the rings. And that's a problem, especially when it's windy or when you have a tripod, because the lens tends to weigh more on the end. There is also another type of lens, which we have here. This is a Zeiss for the Hasselblad medium format. You see how big is this lens? This lens is manual. It has the aperture ring and the shutter speed here. Because this lens, the characteristic of this lens, it's that it has the shutter inside. The shutter is not on the camera. I mean, the camera is just a box with the film and the curtains. One important thing, I mean, this is very important. The lens, it's the most important part of the package. The lens and the camera. The lens is the most important part. If you have a good lens and average camera, you will have good results. While if you have a top camera and average lens, like a kit lens, even if not all the kit's lenses are semi-toy, you won't have a good result. So if you have to invest or you want to buy a camera, it's better you get a good lens. You pay more for the lens and less for the camera, because the lens is what makes the difference. Well, I think I've said everything, and as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have questions, you can write. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.